I married my wife when she was 37, and now she's 47. I've never been allowed to finish inside my wife of 10 years, despite wanting to. She's got an aversion to it, so I respect her strong preference and have pulled out every time unless I'm using protection. One time, she felt like I might have finished inside her, so she took a plan B to make sure that there was no chance of her getting pregnant. She doesn't normally use birth control, and I often used condoms at her request. The other day, we were talking about why we never had a kid together, and she said it was God's will. I pointed out the fact that I've never finished inside her, and her response was, "What? Am I a piece of meat?" Then she attempted to normalize the situation. I feel bad because I've always wanted a child with my wife, and she promised me that if I married her before she was 40, she'd have a child with me. I've always worked full-time and have been the breadwinner. She had a 3-year-old son from a previous relationship when we first met, and by leaning on me, she was able to work part-time and enjoy being present with her son. Together, we raised her only son. He's 20 years old now and has moved out, so the house is quiet again. I'm 40, and as you know, my wife's older than me at 47, so the thought of having a kid with her is really out of the question. I married her before she was 40, like she wanted, but nothing changed after that. I even added her name to the house I bought. I want to move forward. I want to shake my desire of having my own biological child, but I fear that I'll have deep regrets as an older man. I'm really curious about pregnancy, childbirth, and think that a kid would be the ultimate adventure, but I don't want to be selfish. I'm working with a therapist who shared that biological kids are not always the answer, and there are other ways to be a parent or to share my time. And I get that. The house is quiet, and I'm struggling to find meaning and purpose in life, but maybe there's another source of adventure to find. How did I overlook this issue for so long and not talk about it sooner? I know that I've mentioned my worries in the past, but my wife is very type A, animated, and quick to distract the conversation with a variety of diversions or cycling reasons to justify the situation. Maybe this is a control tactic that I'm not familiar with. I've only been able to look up and out to the horizon for a moment because life and financial obligations have kept me busy at work. I deeply love and care for my wife as a person, but I'm feeling a little lost, and I struggle and feel alone with my situation. Our story is much deeper, but I want to stop here to get some advice. I'm feeling a certain way and struggling to make sense of things. Does anything sound concerning? Does anyone have suggestions or recommendations?
This story is quite heartbreaking, and I really feel for OP. When his wife said that it was God's will as to why they haven't had any children, I couldn't help but laugh at how ridiculous that was. It sounds to me like she never intended on having a child with OP. If she did intend on having a child with him, but changed her mind at some point, she should have been forthcoming and told OP so he can make an informed decision about his future. I'm not a parent yet, but I can imagine having your own child is very different to adopting. While I'm not opposed to adoption, I'd want to have a child of my own, especially if I'm able. If OP really feels strongly about having children of his own, while divorce could be expensive, maybe finding a partner who wants a family is the best course of action. The regret he may have to endure in his later years could be rough. If there was ever a time for OP to make a decision about something, this is it. Let's see how the people in the comments felt about this whole thing.
Original King says, "Bud, it's pretty clear to me that your wife saw you as someone who could address the safety and financial needs for her and her son. I think that she pulled one over on you. You mentioned the baby issue and never allowing you to climax inside her. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think your wife had a plan all along. She knew you were a stand-up guy and into her enough that this was her chance to have the perfect relationship, at least perfect for her, regardless of what you wanted. I'm not trying to stir things up, it's just what it looks like to me." Fraud Harley says, "Hey man, just a piece of advice. This story is 10 years too late. The boat sailed. This is probably something you should have thought about addressing like 9.5 years ago, because she's not going to change her mind now. She's of the age where even if you did change her mind, getting pregnant probably won't be that easy, or medically safe. If you love her, lick your wounds and move on. You have to get over it. If you're really hung up about the kid thing, you're going to have to make some tough choices and maybe consider making some relationship changes, big changes."
This all really sucks for OP. It does seem like his wife got everything she wanted, and OP's left wondering about what could have been. I hope he's able to find a solution to this issue, but whichever path he takes, it won't be an easy one.
My boyfriend and I are both in our early 20s and have been together for almost 2 years. We live in different countries, but manage to see each other almost every other month. My mom was overjoyed when I told her that I have a boyfriend because he's my first everything, and I'm not usually a social person. My mom was even happier when I told her he was coming over to visit. This was about half a year into our relationship. My mom came with me to pick him up from the airport, and from the very beginning, she was acting weird. She kept making negative comments about me in front of him, trying to prove that she's so much better than me. My boyfriend was obviously weirded out by her behavior, but he was still polite and even gifted her a chocolate from his home country. On more than one occasion, she was saying borderline inappropriate things about him, like making comments about how handsome and hot he is in real life. She would do this in our language as he comes from an English-speaking country, and we don't. After a 2-hour drive, we finally get to my apartment. I expected my mom to just let us out of the car so she could make her way home, but no, she followed us inside. She proceeds to show him around my apartment as if it were her own. A few days after my boyfriend left to go back home, I talked to my mom on the phone. We were just having a casual conversation when I asked her about what she thinks of my boyfriend. She talked about how handsome he is, how sweet he is, and how she loves how he is around us. She then goes on to talk about how if I didn't have him, if he wasn't my boyfriend, she would make an attempt to get him. Surprisingly, this sentence didn't shock me at the time, because my mom tends to want to take people away from me. There have been times where I've made friends, and as soon as she met them, she talked bad about me, to make them not want to be friends with me, hoping that they'd find her cooler because she'd buy them things. It's also worth mentioning that my mom's been single for almost 10 years now, so any sort of male attention is everything to her. Months later, I come back from a trip to my boyfriend's country, and my mom picks me up at the airport. On the way home, she was relatively quiet, so I started talking about the things me and my boyfriend did, and recalling the amazing memories I made with him. She didn't say much about it until she started talking about how she's done the same things with multiple men, but of course, her experiences were much more romantic than mine. I didn't know how to respond at that point, so I was quiet for the rest of the ride. When we got to my apartment, I showed her some of the things I bought, and I showed her a stuffed animal my boyfriend got me as a gift. She immediately grabbed it, hugged it tightly, and showered it with kisses while sniffing it. While not letting go of the stuffed animal, she looked at the chocolate I bought, which was the same one my boyfriend got for her when he visited. My mom goes on to tell me that she hasn't eaten her chocolate yet because it's a gift that means so much to her, so she can't eat it. Keeping the chocolate he brought her makes her feel like he's still here, like she has a part of him. So let's skip forward to more recent times. About a month ago, my boyfriend came to visit again, but he stayed for longer this time as he wanted to see more of my family. We had to stay at my mom's place for a few nights, and there were quite a few things that she said that was off-putting, but nothing worth mentioning. However, we spent a lot of time with my younger sister, and we planned for us to do some things together, just the 3 of us. When my mom found out about this, she gave us the silent treatment, especially towards my sister because she had taken my mom's place. My sister's very supportive of us and tries to shield my boyfriend from our mom's weird behavior. However, my mom kept making it obvious that she felt left out, especially when she found out that we wanted to go to the beach without her. To make a long story short, my mom got very offended that we wanted to be by ourselves. My mom's closing in on 50, and we're in our early 20s, and usually I have no problem hanging out with my mom. I've done that my whole life because I didn't have many friends or a boyfriend until now. I don't know what to make of this situation, and maybe it's more common than I make it out to be, but like I said, this is my first boyfriend and her first son-in-law. Don't get me wrong, my mom can be the sweetest and most helpful person, but this situation doesn't sit right with me. This isn't about jealousy because I know where me and my boyfriend stand, and he's creeped out by her too, and it makes it harder for them to connect how I'd want them to.
This is a bit of a unique case. I'm not sure if OP's mum wants to steal her daughter's boyfriend, or if she's just very lonely. But her behavior with the stuffed animal was very weird, which kind of suggests she might have a thing for OP's partner, and the keeping of the chocolate adds to that. I don't think there's anything normal about how OP's mum's acting, but I think OP should sit down with her so she can air her feelings. There could be a lot more going on with the mum than OP's aware of, and her being upset about not being invited to the beach is what makes me think that she's lonely. Not having someone in her life to do these sort of things with is probably making her crave human interaction, but let's see what they're saying in the comments.
Ambiguous Redditor says, OP, you are downplaying and wondering if this is normal, and it is in fact unhealthy and not normal. Set some firm and healthy boundaries now. Do not allow yourself to start questioning what's inappropriate when you know what feels wrong for your mom to do and say. Being a young adult is difficult, so make sure to prioritize the healthy relationships in your life, which from the little I've read seem to be your boyfriend and sister. As soon as you can, set those boundaries with your mom clearly, respectfully, and firmly. Gilly Boo says, I'm not a professional, but I'm a mom in my mid-30s with plenty of life experience and therapy sessions. Your mom sounds like she has narcissistic characteristics. It doesn't mean she's a narcissist. Sometimes, those traits overlap with other diagnoses, but it's something to look out for. Her competing with you, feeling left out, getting jealous, wanting to be the center of attention, or the chosen woman in a situation, even against her own daughters, is not normal or healthy. Her actively trying to dismantle your friendships, and now relationship is extremely unhealthy and not normal or even that common. Her belittling the moments, memories, and items you're excited about sharing is another red flag. All of this combined can affect your confidence, relationships, and the love you accept from others. I hope you continue to observe these behaviors the way you have been, so you can compartmentalize and question if something's normal, that can keep you on track to place healthy boundaries with her and others. Have you ever considered that maybe you haven't had a lot of friendships or relationships because of your mom? Not only due to her behavior around others, but because the way she acts has held you back from being confident or comfortable in social groups. You could very well be an introvert, but sometimes children of narcissists realize later on that they spent the majority of their life needing to stay out of the limelight to keep the peace at home, which kept them from truly being themselves. This is just something to think about or read up on.
I think there's more to this whole situation than OP's mum just wanting her boyfriend, and I hope they can figure it out before things get worse. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Coffee and Popcorn, and I can't wait to see you on the next one.